Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you today about something that's going to shake a few people up. Now, I know this might sting, but sometimes the truth comes wrapped in a little bit of pain. The title of today's message is this: if a man says these 6 words, he is cheating. Ladies and gentlemen, when a man is cheating, most people think the evidence will come crashing through the door. Lipstick on the collar, late night calls, or secret messages. But the truth is, the first signs of cheating don't come with loud alarms. They come quiet, real quiet. They come through the small things he says, subtle phrases, carefully chosen words. Little comments that don't feel like much at first, but they carry weight if you're paying attention. See, a man who's cheating doesn't want to get caught. He doesn't want to lose the comfort he has at home. But he also doesn't want to stop what he's doing. So what does he do? He starts crafting a story, a soft lie. He doesn't do it all at once. No, he lays it down slow, brick by brick, word by word. He'll start with distance, not just physical distance, but emotional distance. Suddenly, conversations feel dry. When you ask where he's been or what he's doing, he keeps it vague. He'll use phrases like just out or had some stuff to handle. But there's no detail in his story, no richness, no feeling like you're part of his world. Why? Because he's creating a version of events just safe enough to keep you from asking too many questions. He's not lying out at first. He's editing the truth. And then the language starts shifting. You bring up something that feels off, and instead of comforting you or explaining things, he turns it back on you. You always do this, he says. Or why are you so paranoid? These words are subtle tools. They're not just meant to defend himself. They're meant to make you doubt your own instincts. That's the dangerous part. A cheating man knows how to use your emotions against you. If he can make you feel guilty for questioning him, he can buy himself more time to keep doing what he's doing. You see, cheating doesn't start in the bed, it starts in the mouth. It starts in the way a man learns to speak around the truth without touching it. He'll act like he's misunderstood, like he's under pressure, like he's tired. He'll say, I just need a break. Or, you don't get what I'm going through right now. These aren't always lies, but when they show up during moments when you're asking for answers, that's a man trying to distract you with words so you stop asking questions. And here's the trick. The words he uses aren't aggressive. They're gentle, calm, controlled. He's not raising his voice, he's lowering it, trying to keep you calm while he quietly shifts the spotlight away from himself. That's what makes it so hard to catch, because it doesn't feel like a fight. It feels like confusion, like something's off, but you can't quite name it. That's the power of subtle language. That's how a cheating man keeps the game going. But let me tell you this, words don't lie, but the way they're used can hide a lot of truth. A faithful man doesn't need to dance around your questions. He doesn't need to make you feel small for wanting clarity. He doesn't get defensive over basic conversations. A man who's committed doesn't need clever words to protect secrets because he doesn't have any. But a man who's cheating, his entire world becomes a performance. Every sentence is a script. Every excuse is a scene. And eventually you realize you've been watching a show instead of living a relationship. So when you hear the soft lies, when the words feel safe, but the energy feels wrong, don't ignore that feeling. Listen not just to what he says, but to what he avoids saying. because in the space between those subtle words lies the truth he doesn't want you to see. And sometimes that silence says more than any excuse ever could. Ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to know what a man is about, don't just watch what he does, listen to what he says. Because the truth is, words reveal intentions long before actions confirm them. A man's mouth will speak on where his heart truly is, even if his behavior hasn't caught up to it yet. A lot of people think cheating just happens all of a sudden, like one day he's loyal and the next day he's not. But that's not how it works. It starts small in the way he speaks, in the things he says to you, and the things he stops saying altogether. If you're paying attention, the shift in his words will always come before the shift in his actions. When a man's intention starts to change, when his commitment starts slipping, it shows up in his language first. He may not say, "I'm cheating," but he'll say things that tell you where his mind is going. He'll stop saying things that used to make you feel safe. You'll notice he doesn't tell you he loves you as often. He doesn't ask how your day was. He doesn't say good morning or good night like he used to. Those aren't just missing words, they're missing signals. Signals that his heart is pulling away, even if he's still showing up physically. That absence in language is not random, it's intentional, because people don't stop communicating with those they care about. They stop communicating with those they're trying to disconnect from. Sometimes the words change in another way. You'll start hearing new phrases. Maybe he suddenly says, "You're always on my back," or "Why do I have to tell you everything?" or "Can't I just have my own life for once?" Now, as face value, those things might not sound like cheating, but if those words didn't exist in your relationship before, if that tone didn't used to be there, that's not just a bad move. That's a shift in intention. He's laying the groundwork to justify future behavior. What he's really saying is, I'm already starting to detach from you, and I need you to stop holding me accountable. That's not just a warning sign. That's a billboard. It's easy to get distracted by actions because actions are physical, they're visible. But words are internal. They come from a man's thoughts, from the way he's processing you and your relationship. A man can smile at you, bring you flowers, and still be cheating, but his words, those subtle comments he makes when you're not fighting, the jokes he cracks, the way he talks when he's relaxed, that's where the truth starts leaking out. Because when a man is cheating, his mind is split. And sooner or later, that split shows up in how he talks to you. Pay attention when his tone changes, when his sentences start sounding like excuses instead of conversations. When "I'll call you back" turns into "I'm busy" every time you reach out. When "I miss you" disappears and gets replaced with silence. His words are telling you what's coming, even if he hasn't acted on it yet. A man can only fake his speech for so long before his real intentions slip through. And once they do, that's your moment to notice, to realize that love doesn't sound like avoidance. Commitment doesn't sound like indifference. Loyalty doesn't sound like blame. Now, I'm not saying one bad day or one careless comment means he's cheating, but when the language starts to shift consistently, when there's a pattern of coldness, avoidance, or irritation, believe what you hear. Not the excuses, not the rehearsed lines, not the polished answers. Believe the tone, believe the timing, Believe the tension in his voice when he talks to you, like you're an obligation instead of a choice. Because before a man cheats with his body, he cheats with his heart. And the first place that betrayal shows up is in his words. Not his footsteps, not his phone, his words. Because those words are telling you everything if you're brave enough to listen. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing I learned about people, especially people trying to hide something, is that they always come with excuses. And when it comes to cheating, excuses are not just a way to avoid the truth. They are the number one tool a man uses to escape accountability. See, a man who's cheating isn't going to stand in front of you and confess the moment things get suspicious. No, what he's going to do is start building a wall made out of excuse. And every excuse he gives is another brick keeping you from the truth. He doesn't want you to see what's really happening, so instead he gives you something that sounds just believable enough to make you second guess your instincts. It starts small. He misses your call and tells you he was asleep, even though he usually answers at that time. He's gone longer than usual, but he says there was traffic. He doesn't text all day, but when you ask, he says he was just busy. Now listen, everybody gets tired, busy, stuck in traffic, but when these excuses become constant, when they start stacking up day after day, and when they always show up at moments when you're trying to connect or get clarity, that's not life happening. That's a man trying to dodge accountability. And here's the thing, the excuses he gives aren't designed to make sense to you. They're designed to make just enough sense so you don't press further. He knows you want to trust him. He knows you're trying to believe in the relationship, so he uses that against you. He knows you'll second guess yourself before you accuse him of anything, so he keeps feeding you little explanations, little distractions, hoping you'll settle for those instead of demanding the truth. Sometimes the excuses become emotional. He starts saying things like, I've just got a lot on my mind, or work is stressing me out, or I just need some time to figure things out. And those phrases sound deep. They sound like a man who's going through something. But when a man's always going through something, every time you ask a question, what he's really doing is shutting you down. That's not vulnerability. That's avoidance dressed up like honesty. And don't be surprised if the blame starts shifting too. One of the oldest tricks in the book is when a man starts making you the problem. You bring something up and suddenly you're too sensitive. Or you're always accusing me. Or you're never satisfied. That's not just an excuse, that's manipulation. He's using words to flip the spotlight. Now you're too busy defending your tone, your emotions, your expectations, and while you're doing that, he gets to slide out the back door of accountability, unnoticed and untouched. A cheating man knows exactly how to use timing to make his excuses work. He waits until you're too tired to argue. He picks moments when you're vulnerable, when you've just had a rough day, or when you're craving peace more than answers. And in those moments, his excuses sound like relief, but all they really are is delay. He's buying time, not giving truth. And eventually the lies pile up so high that even he can't keep track of them. That's when you'll start hearing contradictions. Things won't line up. He'll forget what he told you last week. He'll say something that doesn't match what you already know. And when that happens, you're not just dealing with someone who made a mistake. You're dealing with someone who's been practicing deception. Accountability is the one thing a faithful man never runs from. He may not be perfect, but when you come to him with a concern, He listens, he explains, he respects your need for clarity. But when a man is cheating, the last thing he wants is to take responsibility for the damage he's causing. So instead, he hides behind convenience, confusion, and charm. And no matter how convincing his excuses sound, remember this: truth doesn't need a defense, but lies always come with a story. Ladies and gentlemen, trust is not something that breaks all at once. It doesn't come crashing down like a building in a storm. No, trust breaks in silence, in shadows, in quiet moments when one person decides to be dishonest. The moment deception begins, even if it's small, the foundation of that trust starts to crack. And once it cracks, the relationship is never quite the same again. See, people often think trust is only broken when the cheating is exposed, when the lie is discovered, when the secret comes to light. But that's not when the trust breaks. That's just when you finally see it. Trust breaks the moment a man chooses to deceive, the moment he hides something from you, the moment he lies to your face with a smile, knowing full well that what he's saying isn't true. That moment, that decision to protect his actions instead of your heart, that's when the damage is done. Cheating doesn't begin with the physical act. It begins with emotional separation, with deleted messages, with unanswered questions, with hidden details. It begins with the small decision to say, she doesn't need to know about this. That moment right there is when a man walks away from the agreement you both made, the unspoken promise to be real, to be open, to be loyal. And the worst part is, you may not even feel it at first, because deception has a way of pretending everything's fine. He'll still look you in the eye. He'll still say, I love you. He might still hold your hand, take you out, make you laugh. But underneath all that, he's already left the truth behind. That's the thing about deception. It wears a mask. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a warning. It hides inside the routines, inside the normal moments, and makes you question your own gut. And that's the cruelest part. Because while he's deceiving you, he's also making you doubt yourself. He's acting like everything's good while building a separate life behind your back, and you, trusting him, don't see it right away. You keep giving him the benefit of the doubt. You keep saying, maybe I'm overthinking, but deep down something feels off. You can't put your finger on it, but you feel it. And here's the truth. Once deception begins, love starts to suffer. It may still exist, but it won't feel safe anymore. Because love without trust becomes anxiety. It becomes suspicion. It becomes late night overthinking, checking phones, second-guessing conversations. You start to listen for what he didn't say. You start reading between the lines. And every time he gives you half an answer, every time he avoids eye contact, every time he gets defensive over something small, your heart whispers, this isn't how it used to be. And it's right, because the moment he chose deception over honesty, the version of the relationship you once had no longer exists. Some people will say, but he didn't cheat all the way, or it was just a message, or he didn't mean it. But deception is not measured by how far it goes. It's measured by the moment it begins. The very act of choosing to lie, to hide, to manipulate, that's the moment he stops being loyal in spirit, even if his body hasn't left yet. Loyalty isn't just about where he sleeps at night. It's about where his heart is. And when his heart starts operating in secrecy, you're no longer in a relationship, you're in a performance. A man who truly values your trust will protect it like it's gold. He'll tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. He won't play games with your mind. He won't make you beg for clarity. Because once deception enters, trust starts dying. And without trust, love becomes a memory instead of a reality. And sometimes the hardest part isn't the cheating itself. It's the realization that the trust you gave so freely was never protected the way it deserved to be. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most common phrases a cheating man will use is, "I just need space." Now, on the surface, that might sound fair. After all, we all need time to think, time to breathe, time to process. But when those words come out of nowhere, when they arrive without warning, and when they're not followed by real communication, more often than not, that's not about space. That's about separation. That's about creating distance without explanation. And behind that distance, more often than not, is deception. When a man starts saying he needs space but can't explain why, or doesn't want to talk about what he's feeling, that's not about growth. That's about hiding. It's not about figuring things out. It's about buying time. It's a way to soften the blow while he disconnects from the relationship, emotionally, mentally, and often physically. You might think he's going through something. You might tell yourself he's overwhelmed. And maybe, just maybe, there are rare times when that's true. But if he wants space without honesty, if he wants distance without responsibility, then he's not trying to build a better relationship. He's trying to escape it. The man who says he needs space but still wants you to stay loyal, still expects you to wait, still wants you to be there when he decides to come back, that man isn't protecting your heart. He's preserving his options. Because real space doesn't feel like silence. It doesn't feel like confusion. It doesn't leave you in the dark. If a man truly needs time to reflect, he'll tell you what's going on. He'll talk through it with you. He'll reassure you even while he's stepping back. But when a man is cheating, his version of space is really just a cover story, a way to be unavailable while telling you not to worry, a way to silence your questions while he goes off to explore something else behind your back. And the tricky part is, the word space sounds so mature, so calm. It's not like he's yelling. It's not like he's fighting. He's just saying, "I need time to think." And that can be so easy to accept, especially if you love him, especially if you want to support him. But that's exactly why it's used, because it sounds reasonable. But listen to the silence between his words. Watch the way he acts after he says it. If he needs space, but suddenly becomes unreachable, emotionally cold, distant, and starts guarding his phone, changing his routine, becoming defensive when you ask simple questions, he's not taking space. He's making room for someone else. When a man is cheating, space becomes the shield. It's his excuse to not come home on time. It's his reason for not calling back. It's what he says when you ask for answers he doesn't want to give. And he knows that as long as he uses that word, it puts you in a position where you don't want to push too hard, because you don't want to look needy. You don't want to seem controlling. You want to be supportive. And he's counting on that. He's counting on your patience so he can take advantage of it. But don't confuse silence for strength. Don't confuse distance for depth. And don't ever let a man confuse space with respect. Because respect includes communication. It includes honesty. And it never includes leaving someone hanging while you go figure out if you want to come back. A man who truly loves you will never make you feel abandoned in the name of clarity. And if he asks for space, but disappears in that space, if he pulls away and you can feel in your soul that something's not right, believe that feeling. Because space doesn't destroy relationships. Secrets do. And more often than not, those secrets are exactly what he's hiding behind those three little words, ladies and gentlemen. One of the most reliable signs that something is off in a relationship is when consistency starts to disappear. When the things he used to do without being asked suddenly become rare. When the patterns you could once count on begin to shift without reason. That's not random. That's not life getting busy. That's not just a change of pace. More often than not, that's the sound of loyalty fading in real time. Because when a man's heart begins to drift, his actions will follow, and they'll always tell on him. If you're paying attention, at the beginning, a loyal man is consistent without effort. He texts you good morning, checks in throughout the day, makes time to see you, and listens when you speak. He remembers the little things. He's present. His energy matches his words. You don't have to chase him, guess his mood, or wonder where you stand, because consistency is the language of someone who is committed. It's not about grand gestures. It's about showing up day after day, even when nothing big is happening. That's what loyalty looks like in motion. But when a man starts entertaining someone else, when his attention begins to divide, that consistency starts to break. Slowly at first. Maybe he misses a call here and there, takes longer to reply, cancels plans more often, says he's tired, busy, overwhelmed, but somehow still finds time for everything else that matters to him. You notice the difference. You feel the gap. And it's not about one missed message or a single forgotten date. It's about the pattern. It's about watching a man who used to be all in now become half present, half interested, half a matter. And that shift doesn't lie, because when loyalty fades, so does the desire to show up with intention. He stops checking in, stops asking how you're doing, stops putting effort into the little things that once made you feel secure. And when you bring it up, he calls you dramatic, says you're overreacting, tells you you're imagining things. But you're not. You're just witnessing the unraveling of consistency. And behind it is the truth he doesn't want to admit. A cheating man often tries to keep up the act for a while. He'll throw in a few sweet texts here and there, maybe show up with a smile, but it's inconsistent. You feel like you're on a roller coaster. One day he's loving, the next he's cold. One day he's around, the next he's distant. That's not love, that's confusion. And confusion is not the foundation of loyalty. Consistency is. And when it starts to vanish, you have every right to question where his loyalty is gone. You don't need proof from his phone. You don't need a confession. Sometimes all the proof you need is in the way he stops showing up for you the way he used to. Because when a man loves you, truly loves you, he doesn't need to be reminded to care. He doesn't need to be begged to stay connected. He doesn't become someone you barely recognize. His actions stay steady, even through stress, even through challenges. But when his heart starts wandering, his behavior gets lazy, his words become hollow, his presence becomes unreliable, and all the while, he tells you nothing has changed. But everything has changed. You see, loyalty isn't proven in the big moments. It's proven in the quiet ones. It's in the follow-through, the calls he makes just to hear your voice, the way he keeps promises even when no one's watching, the way he keeps you feeling chosen even after time has passed. When that starts to fade, when the consistency you counted on turns into confusion, you're left trying to explain. That's not just distant, that's disloyalty in disguise. So when the rhythm changes, when the attention shifts, when the patterns disappear, listen not to his words, but to the silence where his loyalty used to live. Because a man who stops being consistent has already started being someone else.